Shalom, Yahawah, Shalom. All praises to the Most High, Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Getting right into the video, I want to break down the prophetic nature of what's happening with Iran against Israel and America. You know, when the war first popped off at 4 weeks ago at the end of February, the way that it was being shown on mainstream media, it seemed like America and Israel was going to overwhelm Iran with bombs, carpet bombs. I know they killed the leader of Iran, I forgot his name, and his daughter and his grandchildren. And the way it was being spun, it was like Venezuela 2.0. Because I made a video on that back in January, y'all know. Trump ordered for the sacking of Maduro, the president of Venezuela. You know, same rhetoric. He's a tyrant, he's a dictator, the people are being oppressed, blase, blase, blase. And essentially the same thing was going on with Iran. And the way things were looking at the beginning, the first 3 to 5 days, I was like going on threads and seeing all these people saying America's gonna overwhelm Iran with, you know, its turrets and its stealth bombers and its B-2 fighters and all these different things. And I was praying to the Most High, wondering, you know, why is such a wicked nation filled with pride, covetousness, iniquity, and oppression of the Most High's people? Why does it seem like they're winning all these battles when we're waiting on them to literally collapse? And, you know, just continuing to look at many geopolitical guys. For those of y'all who follow this guy's name, Professor Jang, who's talking about it. There's another video by a guy named What If the List guy. I've been watching some of his videos in the past. He speaks on geopolitical events like this. And I was kind of shocked that so many people said that this war is not meant for America to win. It's actually a trap, and it can lead to the fall of the U.S. empire, right? So as y'all know, I made a video on that 2 weeks ago about the nature of the war and what's going on with oil, what's going on with the Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, I forgot the other ones, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, etc., and how things are probably going to spiral out of control if things do not, you know, move into a certain direction. And these brothers is breaking it down perfectly, and it's really showing that this is more than likely gonna be the big domino that's gonna take America off the global stage. And somebody might come on here and go, oh bro, you've been talking about this for years. What I mean is that this is the key piece. There's been pieces constantly happening: 9/11, 2008 recession, COVID, the election of Biden and Trump, essentially the degradation of the American policy. I mean, we can keep going on and on, right? But a collapse doesn't get slower over time. It continues and it gets faster and speeds up. And just like the scripture says that mystery Babylon will be judged, I think it's in 1 hour, we're seeing that collapse is getting quicker and quicker. So I started off with this. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 10 and 7. It says, pride is hateful before the Most High and man, and by both does one commit iniquity. And when I was watching this guy's videos, he was talking about how the American strategy is very prideful, and it's very, we have money, we have guns, we have weapons, we've conquered so many different lands, we can do it again. And the Most High is really puffing up Esau, is really puffing up a lot of these war generals, a lot of these politicians to think that they can never lose a war without understanding that, again, what does the scripture say? Let's go to this. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and 9. It says, the thing that has been is that what shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So brothers understand that the same way that things happened in the past, they happen again even in the modern times, regardless of what technology and scientific wisdom that Babylon thinks it has. Same way the Roman Empire got destroyed, same way the Grecian Empire got destroyed, the same way the Persian Empire got destroyed, the same way the Babylonian Empire got destroyed, is the same way that mystery Babylon and the American Empire, and really the Edomite Empire, is gonna fall as well, because all of the things are there. You know, that's why I've been making these videos. And I want someone to get this this scripture right here in verse 8. It says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches gotten by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So we're really starting to see the translation and the waning of power of America, because essentially the Most High is judging this place, and the judgment is going to get stronger and stronger. I want to get this as well. We want to go to the book of Isaiah And we'll go to chapter 47, because this is a perfect prophetic claim right here. This Isaiah 47:1, it says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground," meaning that the nation of Babylon, aka America, is similar to a woman who thinks she's on a high prestige and nobody can touch her. And when she sits on the ground, it's meaning she is brought down to her knees. She is humbled. And that's essentially what America is about to get. They're about to get a slice of humble pie because of all the wickedness and pride that they've had, because the Most High has blessed America with, military might, Esau with military might. They think that they can never be taken down by anybody, especially a country with half of a fraction of the weapons, a fraction of the people, a fraction of the economic system, that they cannot be touched. But this is a judgment coming from the Most High Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, not political forces, not man-made forces, not military forces. So I'll go right here, verse 2. It says, "Take the millstone and grind meal, uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers." So essentially, this is speaking of the exposing of America, where a lot of the things are being uncovered with it. When you reveal the nature of this woman that we call America, and you start to not only see a lot of the wickedness, but you see a lot of the iniquity, the shame that this place has. Verse 3, it says, "Thy nakedness shall be uncovered. Yeah, thy shame shall be seen." And what are you seeing all online? So many people talking about America. So many people talking about Amalek, the false people in the land of Israel right now. So many things from Epstein, from these politicians, from these false idols. All of these things are being uncovered, and it's being brought out through the internet, through people speaking on these things all throughout. People see what's going on. They can't hide it anymore. And right here it says, "I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man." So this is obviously speaking of how Yahawashi would take vengeance not only on Babylon, but the world powers. But it's also speaking on how the Most High is going to allow for the destruction of America due to all the wickedness and all the iniquity that was placed upon it from how it treated the Most High's chosen people, and all the atrocities that have been pumped out all across the globe, from homosexualism to feminism to mass idolatry to covering the faces of the judges to falsifying what the Mashiach actually stood for. I mean, that was way before America, but y'all kind of get the point on what I'm speaking of. America, they co-sign all these things, and this is a land of covetousness and wickedness, and the Most High is not dealing with this place. So long story short, brothers, I want to get into this video because this really just breaks down the sequence of events on what's happening, because the Iranian war is really America being stuck between a rock and a hard place. And no matter where they go, they're essentially about to be ensnared into a war that they can't win. But in this specific war, compared to Vietnam, compared to Iraq, compared to Afghanistan, there's going to be a lot of implications from them losing, because Trump's been putting tariffs. He's been taking away treaties that America has used to have allies in Europe and in Asia. Trump has been talking crazy to a lot of these people, and the Most High has been placing the spirit on Trump to really alienate America, when America is not being propped up by itself. It's being propped up by all these other nations. So watch what's going to happen.
The ceasefire trap. So let us imagine America decides it wants to negotiate a ceasefire with Iran. It picks up the phone, it reaches out through back channels, maybe through Oman or Qatar, and it says, "Let us talk." What does Iran say back? Iran says, "Fine, we will stop fighting, but here are our terms."
And what has Trump been talking about? He's been saying through the news that, they're coming close to a deal, and how Iran, I'm going to stop bombing Iran's oil production because we're close to a deal, and Iran, I'm going to give them 4 days because they're close to a deal. Wasn't this man just saying we're going to obliterate and annihilate all the leaders of Iran and take over Iran, and how if you're in Iran and you're a citizen of Iran, that you need to take the government because help is on the way? Now look at what's happening, how the mighty have fallen, right?
First, America pays Iran approximately $1 trillion in reparations. $1 trillion for the destruction caused by this war, for the decades of sanctions, for the economic damage inflicted on the Iranian people. Second, and this is the critical one, America must leave the Middle East permanently, pack up its bases, withdraw its forces, remove its military presence from the entire region forever, because Iran's position is very simple. The only way to guarantee Iran's long-term survival is to ensure that America can never come back and do this again. Now,
and you have to understand, America left Iraq and America left Afghanistan, but they didn't have the influence that Iran has, because Iran has control over the Strait of Hormuz. And we're going to get into some of the implications of this war on how society and how the world is going to move based off of this conflict. You're already seeing news articles of oil reductions, talking about working from home one day of the week, really stifling the use of oil in places like Japan, places like Thailand, Vietnam. Many southern and southeastern countries are speaking of this right now.
On the surface, some people might say, well, maybe that is not so bad. Maybe America should leave the Middle East anyway. But here's why that thinking completely misunderstands the situation. The moment America leaves the Middle East, a chain reaction begins. A chain reaction that will be catastrophic for the American economy and for American power globally. Let me walk you through this chain reaction step by step. Step one, the GCC becomes Iran's client states. Right now, the GCC nations, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, they exist under American military protection. America guarantees their safety. America is the reason they can function as independent nations. The moment America withdraws, that protection disappears. And the only nation in the region with the military power to guarantee the safety of the GCC and to control access to the Strait of Hormuz is Iran. So the GCC nations have no choice. They become client states of Iran. They fall under Iranian influence. They have to make their peace with Tehran, because without American protection, Iran is the only game in town.
And that's why when you brothers remember that video last 2 weeks ago, we were speaking about how Iran was attacking Saudi Arabian bases, United Arab Emirate bases, Qatarian bases, Kuwait bases, because that's where American soldiers were at. And essentially those countries are vassal states to America, and that's why America has been carpet bombing Iran using those bases, but Iran is specifically targeting those countries, which is also causing the stoppage of a lot of the oil, because Iran knows that America's empire is not solely on oil, but it's heavily influenced by oil that's purchased through the petrodollar.
Step two, the petrodollar collapses. Now here is where it gets really serious for America, because the GCC is not just a collection of oil-rich desert nations. The GCC is the foundation of something called the petrodollar. And the petrodollar is the single most important mechanism keeping the American economy alive. Let me explain this simply. The GCC sells its oil in US dollars. Every barrel of oil that Saudi Arabia sells, every cubic foot of gas that Qatar exports, it is all priced and sold in US dollars. That means every nation on earth that needs Gulf energy, which is most nations, has to hold US dollars to buy it. That creates a permanent global demand for US dollars. And then the GCC takes those dollars it earns from selling oil and recycles them back into the American economy.
Yeah, because if y'all understand, I'm doing research. A lot of these Middle Eastern countries, they invest in AI, they invest in NVIDIA, they invest in a lot of American companies that are being propped up from oil money.
It buys American treasury bonds. It invests in American financial markets. It funds American debt. This is the mechanism, this petrodollar recycling that allows America to function with $39 trillion in debt.
And you have to understand, if America does not have these foreign countries buying bonds, that is what's going to skyrocket inflation and really devalue the dollar, the American dollar.
$39 trillion. The American economy is essentially a Ponzi scheme. It relies on foreign nations continuously buying US dollars and US debt to keep functioning. And the petrodollar is the engine that drives that entire system.
And that's the reason why Trump is controlled opposition, because Trump came in, America first. We're only gonna put America as the main priority. when he already knew that the American economy was not determined off of America being first and America being isolationist. America hasn't been isolationist since before World War II. The new economic system of America is to be a global producer, a global safe haven for countries all across the world. So him going back to a strategy that worked 100 years ago actually hurts America more than it helps. And the other reason why he's doing that is because he wants to stain the reputation and put a heavy eyesore to places like China, Russia, Europe, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and countries in Africa and even South America, so that all these other countries who are buying US dollars, trying to get rich or trying to have economic financial stability and a foundation with the American dollar, eventually at some point they're going to completely turn their back on America and sell all those US bonds, which essentially nobody's going to be able to pay, and the economic state of America more than likely is going to collapse overnight.
Now, the moment the GCC falls under Iranian influence, what happens to the petrodollar? It disappears. The GCC no longer has any reason to sell its oil in US dollars. It no longer has any reason to recycle its earnings back into American markets. The entire foundation of American financial power collapses. And remember, America is sitting on $39 trillion in debt. Without the petrodollar, without foreign nations continuously buying US dollars, the American economy cannot service that debt.
And the thing you need to understand, what are we seeing in the news when it comes to the airports? What have we been seeing in the news for the last 5 to 10 years? Budget stalling, where the US economy or the US government and its members, Senate, House of Congress, etc., they can't even agree on a budget to keep the government functioning for 2-3 months at a time. And that's with America having the world reserve currency, the petrodollar, and all these other countries still invested in US bonds, even though they've been slowly waning off of it, especially China, BRICS countries, etc., etc. So if this happens, that's going to be a huge stain to the reputation of America, and all the people who come here as a safe haven economically, they're going to turn their back on it.
It cannot function. The consequences would be catastrophic. Step 3, Japan and South Korea remilitarize. So now let us look at what happens in Asia when America withdraws from the Middle East. Japan and South Korea are watching everything that is happening right now very carefully. They're watching America's struggle in Iran. They're watching the limitations of American military power being exposed in real time. And they're asking themselves a very uncomfortable question. If America cannot win decisively against Iran, can America really protect us against China, against North Korea? Can we really trust our entire national security to a nation that is clearly overstretched and struggling? And if America then withdraws from the Middle East, that question becomes impossible to ignore. Because if America is willing to leave the Middle East when things get difficult, it might be willing to leave Asia too. So Japan and South Korea have no choice. They have to remilitarize. They have to build up their own military capabilities. They have to stop relying on American protection and start protecting themselves. Japan, which has been pacifist since World War II, is already talking about the most significant military expansion in its post-war history. That process accelerates dramatically if America withdraws from the Middle East. And here is the consequence for America. Japan and South Korea remilitarizing means they're spending their resources on their own defense instead of buying American weapons and supporting American military infrastructure. Another blow to American economic and strategic power. Step 4, Europe makes peace with Russia.
So he's kind of getting into more of the long-term forecast in regards to Europe, the European Union making peace with Russia and things like that. But I really wanted to get into the petrodollar collapse because this war is really a war for the petrodollar. That's the reason why Iran is attacking a lot of these oil-rich countries, because they know that if America cannot save them or protect them, then that really starts to bring the domino effect on the American empire. The more America seems to be weak, the more America feels like they're unable to keep up that face that they can stop any war, they can attack any country, even though they have all these guns and all these weapons and all these different divisions. The easier it is for Russia, for China to make a move, the easier it is for many of these different factions to make a move. And the most important thing is that people in America are going to start to riot. People in America, I mean, they're already rioting. I think they have Cancel the King rally today. I think I seen old man Bernie Sanders speaking to people. I seen it on YouTube earlier. So realistically, Trump is in a, not even just Trump, because Trump is just a figurehead. The American hegemony and the people who run America, and us and the vast majority of people who are dependent upon America having strength for your certain level of lifestyle, that's the thing of the past. We're gonna have higher oil prices, higher inflation, 2022 happening in 2026, but this time we're gonna be 4 years down the domino effect that the Most High has been orchestrating for the collapse of America. And it's really only a matter of time before things start to play out at a much more accelerated pace. Now, this is, like I told y'all earlier, a video from a guy named What Ifathalist, where he did a scenario on what would happen if US and the Iranians had a war. And there's been simulations on this war about what more than likely would happen. And majority of these scenarios always show America losing, ironically enough. So I just want to play some of this video so y'all can understand the nature of this war and why a lot of times we think like, oh, America has these guns, all these weapons, these nukes, they can never lose a war. But then in reality, we notice that it's not easy, but a lot of countries know how to be able to stand against this huge, quote unquote, military power.
I think most Westerners would expect. The US's dominant strategy in its conflict since World War II has been blitzkrieg. We adopted the Germans' World War II tactics of using combined arms attack to rapidly destroy enemies before they're able to react and think about what's going on.
So essentially, the way that America fights wars, they try to overwhelm you by force very quickly. Think Persian Gulf War, think the Iraq War with Saddam Hussein, 2-3 weeks, overwhelm, blow the shit out of your area, and overwhelm you before you can react, right? So the longer that Iran and America are at a standstill, the more likely it is that America is going to lose this war.
We're able to do this quite successfully in both Iraq wars, and it's why we won them so quickly. The problem is that blitzkrieg, or as the Americans have renamed it to be less edgy, shock and awe, is completely ineffective in mountain warfare, that which encompasses the majority of Iran's terrain. Mountainous terrain is especially difficult to launch attacks in modern warfare due to the roads needed for tanks or modern supply chains. If launching an amphibious invasion is difficult, launching an amphibious invasion followed by attacking hundreds of miles of mountainous terrain is insane. If you go through the successful military advances of the modern world, all are on flat terrain, since military breakthroughs in modernity have been dependent on the tank to counterattack the defensive power of the machine gun and trench. Tanks only operate well on flat ground. As the American troops would try to fight their way through the Iranian mountains, they'd be facing World War I-like trench warfare, in which tank offensives through mountain passes wouldn't be effective, as the mountain passes would create places where the artillery and rockets can slaughter tanks trying to push forward. The US's main strategic advantages are in air power, naval power, and firepower.
And what have we been seeing over the last 4 weeks? America bombing all these different targets in Iran. Trump saying we've destroyed over 2,000 targets. We've dropped so many bombs, carpet bombing. Iran still hasn't given up. Their leadership hasn't fallen. The people within Iran haven't staged a coup. Why do you think Trump is talking about doing this? Trump, Pentagon, Wang sending 10,000 more combat troops. I think the day before it was 3,000 troops, right? Hold up, let me see. Yeah, Trump plans to send 2,000 82nd Airborne soldiers. So what is Trump doing? He's sending more soldiers, deploying more. And just like you see in the background of this video, ground invasion trap. Vietnam started with 3,000 and then it ended with 500,000. Let's not even just look at that. Let's look at this. I seen this article a couple days ago. The Army ups max enlistment age to 42. So right now, I think the enlistment into the Army is 18 to 25, right? But let's look at this right here. It says an Army official gives the oath of enlistment to more than new Army recruits on June 13, 2025. The Army increases maximum enlistment age to 42, bringing its ascension policy closer in line with most of the other U.S. military forces. Those in their late 30s and early 40s can now join the U.S. Army. And the reason why they're increasing the age all of a sudden is because they probably predict that there's going to be a larger conflict going on. It says The Army increased its enlistment age to 42 this month, bringing its policy closer with most U.S. military services, Air Force, Marine, Special Forces, etc. According to updated service regulation documents published this month, individuals up to 42 with or without prior military service can enlist in the regular Army, the National Guard, the Army Reserve, according to the updated Army Regulation 601210 published March 20th. AR 601210 is the regulation that governs policies and procedures for the Army's enlistment process. The Army in recent years capped the enlistment age at 35, although it did accept some older recruits with waivers. This policy did not change the Army's minimum age for enlisting, which remains 17 with parental permission, or 18. And I'm not going to read all of this, Akim, but essentially, I mean, there's devil in the details. There's devil in the details. This is more than likely what this is going to turn into. This is going to turn into a full-scale invasion. This is going to turn more than likely going to turn into a full-scale invasion, because Iran is not going to go to peace for nothing. I highly doubt that Trump is going to be willing to wave the white flag when he knows that the American empire is seen off of what? We have to protect our allies. We have to prevent the destruction of the petrodollar. We have to continue to fight this war. So what's going to happen? Either they're going to leave, and then a lot of countries are going to see that America doesn't have the military capabilities to fight this war and to be that head leader, or they're going to double down and continue to fight a war that's just going to accelerate the collapse. So either way, America is going to collapse quicker because there's no way out of this. And that's why when you watch a lot of these people, they always said that Iran was a war trap. That's why this guy has been so popular, because he was talking about this over the last couple years when Biden was still in office. And the Most High is just allowing things to play out how he wanted them to play out. So, obviously, brothers, we living our lives and doing our things, but shit is about to get real. Almost to the point where, we've already been waiting on this, but it's about to get real out here. And if y'all brothers are really studying prophecy and understanding how things are playing out, it's very evident and very apparent what's about to happen. I can show y'all some other stuff as well, right? It says, headline, Iran issues chilling invitation to U.S. military. Psychological warfare has reached a dangerous new threshold. In a stunning NBC News interview, Iran's foreign minister was asked if Tehran fears U.S. ground invasion. His response was absolute no. We are waiting for them. So when your enemy already knows your next move and they've prepared for it and they're openly inviting you to do it, do you think that's going to end up good for you? Now, we can say that Iran is about to call its bluff. Who knows? Maybe Iran might collapse in a couple weeks or a couple months. But again, brothers, when y'all understand prophecy and y'all understand how things are supposed to play out, the Most High is allowing America to be super puffed up so that way it can be destroyed. Let's get this scripture. So this is the book of Genesis chapter 15, and I want to do verse 14 through 16 because it's basically speaking about how the Amorites were an extremely wicked nation that dwelled in the land of modern day Israel that our forefathers would essentially take once they came out of Egypt. But the Most High allowed them to continue to grow in their wickedness. The Amorites, he allowed them to continue to grow in their wickedness until the time when the Most High would return that wickedness and bring the judgment upon the Amorites' head. It's the exact same thing going on with Babylon, right? Verse 14, it says, and also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So a lot of times the Yahawah will prevent the judgment happening quickly. So that way the wickedness, the pride, the puffed upness can be to the fulfilled, time that things will fall the way the Most High wants them to do immediately. That's why brothers have to learn to be long suffering, because a lot of times the Most High and how he puts the prophecy together and the way it looks, sometimes you may feel like it's not happening or it's taking too long or it's not going the way you want it to, but that's when you have to continue to have faith, because the Most High has been setting this up. He already knew it was going to happen before he even built America, but he's been allowing this to be set up for decades. So let's just keep watching this and see what happens.
Mountain terrain negates all of these. In a mountainous region like Italy or Korea, they're both peninsulas, so America is able to use its naval advantage to attack behind enemy lines, pulling them back. This won't work in Iran. Iran's mountainous terrain counteracts all of the US's advantages. On a purely military level, the US invasion of Iran is a horrible idea that would not go well at all. The US would lose an invasion of Iran. Furthermore, another factor I'd like to throw in is that if you look at the last 70 years, they've consistently shown less advanced militaries have been able to punch above their weight with much more technologically advanced industrial ones. The most recent example being Hamas's invasion of Israel, which was more successful than anyone expected it to be. Alternately, the Ukrainians needed to fight off the Russians, the Afghans beating both the Americans and the Soviets, the North Vietnamese defeating the Americans, and more. And so what this has all meant is that it wouldn't surprise me if the Iranians could massively punch above their weight and defeat a much larger American force, since that's been the dominant trend of our era, of less technologically advanced militaries being able to defeat much more advanced ones. I could see this being the modern equivalent of a Teutoburger Wald or a Karhai. In both of them, Roman armies were wiped out by much weaker opponents, and it was completely shocking to everyone at the time because the Romans were seen as the greatest military in the world.
Doesn't that sound just like what we're talking about with Babylon and Iran? The scripture does not say there is no new thing under the sun. And we already know, going back to Revelation chapter 13, even Revelation chapter 12, that it speaks about the red dragon and the beast whose deadly wound was healed. We all understand that that incarnation nowadays is that of the U.S. empire. So this is the perfect stage for the Most High to bring down America before the entire world. And once that happens, y'all understand the implications of that system.
And for Teutoburger Wald as an example, the Germans pulled Roman forces into terrain that negated all of Rome's military advantages, or the cold forests of North Germany, and slaughtered them. And I think the Iranians could do that to the Americans here.
So I don't want to go too much deeper into that, but that was a perfect thing. I do want to put this part right here. So I want to skip forward. So that way y'all can see, essentially how these things would play out and what may happen next.
Is who a war with Iran would benefit the most? Russia and China. With the US bogged down in the Middle East, the Russians might attack the Baltics. The Chinese would feel the need to attack Taiwan in order to be able to attack when the American empire is at their weakest. Through the American imperium weakening, our rivals would grow much stronger. And I can promise that they would not be nice rulers.
And y'all brothers understand the way that it is shaping up. The US-Iran war is what really sparks the war drums, because we already have Ukraine. We've been talking about Taiwan. America gets bogged down in Iran. They're losing a lot of their strength. Boom. You already know China and Taiwan, that's going to pop off. You already know that Russia is already fighting, NATO indirectly in a proxy war. And once you understand that, you see the economic system breaking down. You see the military system. You see the petrodollar collapsing. The old way of rule that the world knows is going to be no more. And then you have to combine it with what this guy is saying. I don't think this guy is 100% genuine. I think he has a lot of good things. When brothers say that he could potentially be an agent, I wouldn't deny it, but I want to bring this specific aspect up because regardless, he has a very good analysis, and this can lead, and this probably will lead to what brothers understand the New World Order taking shape with our nations. I just want to go all the way over here.
The only real exit, the only path that does not lead to catastrophe leads to the coast, leads to the what we have covered today. This war has its own momentum, just like Ukraine, and neither side can easily stop it. America cannot negotiate a ceasefire because Iran's demands would trigger a catastrophic 5-step chain reaction. GCC becomes Iran's client states. Petrodollar collapses. Japan and South Korea remilitarize. Europe makes peace with Russia. US dollar loses reserve currency status. American economy built on $39 trillion of debt collapses. America cannot send ground troops, because Clark Island leads to the coast, leads to the Zagros Mountains, leads to a full-scale land war, mission creep exactly like Vietnam, from 3,000 Marines to 500,000 troops, America cannot win militarily because the American military loses every single war game simulation against Iran. And Iran has spent 20 years building the perfect counter to America's playbook. America is trapped. It cannot go forward. It cannot go back. It cannot stay where it is indefinitely. And the only real exit, the only path that does not lead to catastrophe is wisdom, a new partnership, a new world order where America leads not through domination, but through cooperation.
You hear that? What did he say? He said, what?
Cannot go forward. It cannot go back. It cannot stay where it is indefinitely. And the only real exit, the only path that does not lead to catastrophe is wisdom, a new partnership, a new world order.
A new world order. So the way things can shape up, this leads into a longer war. China, Taiwan, Russia, whatever. And then from there, brothers, you already know with this specific conflict, let's talk about fertilizer not going to developing countries in Africa, Central South America, which is going to lead to starving. There's another video I have regarding climate change and how there's different droughts and things happening all across the world. All of these things are happening at once. All of these curses are happening at once. All of these other countries are going, probably after Trump is out of office in the next, he has 3 years, who knows? And then whoever comes after Trump is going to force the world or lead the world into the new hegemony in which, and look, this is just what I believe is going to happen. But according to scriptures, we understand that there's going to be a new world order that will cause all, both great and, let's just get the scripture actually. This is it right here, Revelation 13 and 16. It says he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, say he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And giving up, we can go up right here. Revelation chapter 13 and verse 12, it says he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So essentially, brothers, understand the beast system is coming up. The new world order is really knocking on the door. Now things are being moved to actively transition towards that with all these different conflicts. And yeah, you have war, you have climate change. Like, look at this one right here. Look at everything that's happening right now. You got the war. It says the earth is now heating up twice as fast as in previous decades. Russian fertilizer makers can't offset potential Iran-related supply. We know without fertilizer, less crops, right? Less food. Earth is heating up, more plagues. So everything is really culminating in which there's going to be a global crisis in which all these different nations are going to have to come together. And we all understand what that's going to lead to. So it's interesting times, it's crazy times, but it's the Most High's will. So brothers have to align themselves with the Most High's will and not allow the life that they're living and the things going on in their life to keep them away from what's most important, which is this. This is Matthew 22 and 36 says, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Yahawashi said unto him, Thou shalt love the Most High thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. So this is the most important thing, regardless of what may be going on in brothers' lives. And we all have to be focused on what's most important, because things are about to get hectic in a way that brothers have never seen in their entire lifetime. So I give all praises to Yahawah, Bahasham, Shine. Until next time, it's the brother Ash Ibad signing out.